Well, folks, I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to learn from both of you as well as we kind of go forth on this panel discussion. But before we begin, just wanted to drop a quick introduction for all. So I'm Erin Staples. I am a dev advocate and technical community builder, currently looking for my next role. But I'll pass it off to you. Cherish, you want to go first? And a quick little brief intro?
Sure. Thanks, Erin. Yes. So I'm Cherish. I've spent the last 9 years building technical communities. I worked with a couple of brands, started my journey with Google, then went on to Amazon, Hacker Earth, and now I work primarily with like seed startups. I'm now building developer relations, vertical and communities for Orkeso.
Oh, awesome. Love that. Love kind of the different brands you always get to work with and the excitement that you get to work with in this space. Taiji, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Taiji. I work at Outsystems as a developer advocate and a community manager. Actually, I usually based in Japan, but today I'm from San Francisco. Yeah, but they're on site. So I'm in the back room of the venue of CMX Summit. So I'm worried about a little bit noisy sometimes. So I sometimes mute my mic or something, right? Anyway, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So good. And I'm glad you can be here. We're a truly global virtual event right now. So I'm currently in New York. We've got everybody around the globe. We had a bit of, a few minor COVID exposures that caused us to be this way. But this is the beauty of being virtual and online is we can do this, can continue to move forward with the event, barring all illness and all. But I want to kind of kick us off with a pretty soft question of what might differ from a developer community from more of a community of practice, say like, CMX.
Mm-hmm. I can go
Open
first.
stage. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Cool. Right. So I think that's a good question, right? Like while in fact last year when I was being nominated for CMX Professional of the Year, a lot of people had not realized developer relations as a category, and I got this is the first times that CMXs were seeing something like that. In fact, so developer relations is basically, or like developer communities is a community for developers by developers usually. CMX as a brand has multiple communities, right? Of like of entrepreneurs, of executives, of developers, of non-profits. And if you're working in the space of a company which is either selling directly to the developers or uses developers to sell to the brand, so it's either a dev plus company or a dev first company, it qualifies as as a company which will have like developer relations or developer communities.
Yeah. Cool.
I love that.
Same. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
same. Yeah, so I'm also the developer guy. So mainly usually focusing on the developer community. But CMX Summit is the very similar several community here. And yesterday, actually, I joined some sessions at the on-stage session. So it's a really beneficial for me. They're not only developer community, but also the other kind of the communities, such as just a product marketing or just like a more strategic community or something. And not only developers. It's already very interesting, the CMX Summit. Yeah.
It's always really cool. And I think one of the nuances I've noticed and both of you have sort of mentioned about is the ability of really working with that technical audience that's very builder, but it still benefits the core brand. So, I moved into developer communities from being more in communities of practice. And like my early community experience was all in gaming and forums, and then moved into developer communities, which is a really exciting thing to see how you can take these skills and apply them in many different ways. But that kind of begs the question. I'm going to make an assumption here that all of us have some technical skill set or background, but if you're looking at moving into a developer community for the first time or looking at embracing a dev advocate role or a developer relations role, what degree of technical skills would you be looking for in a candidate, or would you be looking for as you kind of bring someone onto that journey?
Sure. So I think like this, great question, Erin, right? Like this is one of the one of the reasons why most of the people self-select themselves out before they even apply for a developer relations role or like a developer community role, because they think they lack the technical expertise. But in my experience, I think we need every kind of people that we can get in our community or in our team. So if you're a person who can build content, or who can build communities, or who can even write code, either of the three, I think you're an important asset of the team. No, like building communities do not necessarily need you to actually know how to code. So I think you're golden even if you don't know how to actually code. So from technical expertise, it kind of drills down to what is the role that you're applying for. If it's a community builder, it doesn't necessarily need one. If you're somebody who's working managing social media for the community that you're building, not a lot. But if you're and just like if you're applying for a company which has developer relations or like technical communities role in an ed tech company, the technical expertise needed there will be far lesser than if you go to like a serious cloud ops kind of community, because then it's like really like ingrained into the DNA of the company. So the role and the company decides the level of expertise you need when it comes to your technical prowess. But that being said, do not self-select yourself out ever, because there is always a place for every kind of talent in every team. I think it's best to talk to your hiring manager or people who are already working in that team.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight something you said there before passing it, Taiji. Really want to emphasize, especially women and folks of colors, people of color is very important. We know statistically that they read a job posting and will not apply and self-select themselves out. So I really want to encourage you, if you're applying for that job, go ahead, take the risk, or even reach out to a recruiter and say, what are the expectations for this role and the deliverables? But I'll pass it back to you. So do you have a different perspective on that?
Cool. Yeah, interesting. I also think about. I think depending the company, that kind of situation. For example, the now current my company, the Outsystems, that we have the separate roles, the developer advocate and the community manager. It's very good situation for improving the developer community. But my previous company, IBM, I used to be working at IBM as a developer advocate. But the IBM developer advocacy team, they had no community managers. So that's why I did cover also the tech community, not only just developer advocacy. So it's the situation is depending the company, I think. Yeah, but anyway, all of these roles needs to have any experience for technical background because of the developer relations. Is that things importantly it is to make trust between the vendor and developer. That's why the developer advocate or community manager for reaching out developer community, they need to have the technical knowledge and skills for making trust. Yeah, I think.
Right. And trust is such a good, like an important part when building a community, but especially I think about a developer community. I think of a bad support experience. We've all been in the support experience where it's like, bro, I told you the problem I'm having. I highlighted the problem. And then you get that support person that's like, what problem exactly are you having? And it's like, oh my goodness, pull my hair out. I don't want to do that.
That's true.
Right.
We've all been
I
there.
don't know
And
anybody
I think
who has not had. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think developer communities is the same. Like if you don't have some understanding of how the system works or the language that you're using or even the tool that you're building with, you're probably not going to build a lot of trust with developers. But the same would be said for a community of practice. Like if we had someone in the CMX community, for example, who really was giving a talk and they were talking about automobiles, it's probably not a really great fit. So making sure that those skills and expertise align. But kind of moving on to that next question, Mary Thingvall once wrote that DevRel is part code, part content, part community. And I want to know what is like, we've heard it different ways and different folks have expertises in different formulas, but in your personal day-to-day, what does that look like? And what are the skills that are most important to you?
First of all, I think big ups and big shout out to Mary. I'm a huge fan of her work, and everything that she does is just like fantastic. But it's an important question, Erin, and I think like it's such a nuanced question that I know that our answers, Taiji and my answers, wouldn't like actually match, because it depends on the scale of the company and the priorities you're working with. So right now, like I said, like I work with early stage companies. So initially, it's very important to build the content that people will see to know what your company does, how it operates, how your product actually functions. And as you have enough content, you can go out and actually talk about other people, so build connections about the community. And the all these things, right, like content, community, and code, and all of these things kind of run in parallel. But on a day-to-day basis, it kind of it's dependent upon what your focus is as a company and what you have as a priority. Yeah. So I think over to you, Taji.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think so. So the developer community, typically the use needs any technical contents to improve that community. The just It's depending the different situation, the vendor side and the user side, to improve community. The vendor side want to grow the community, for the sales through the community, the get want to get the opportunity to sell the product or services. But user side is purely to improve the development skills. So it's hard things, difficult things to help match the vendor side and user side for improving good user community, developer community, I think. I'm searching the good solution still now during my developer relations experiences. Yeah, I think.
Awesome. And if you are in the audience and you have a question, I'd love to hear from you as well. So feel free to drop it in the chat on the virtual stage. But really want to highlight, what is the first step to build that user community? So kind of what skills does it take? How do we get started? If you're interested in building that, what does that look like?
Well, I think the technical background, right? Maybe. So usually the two patterns we have to become the community manager, the marketing background guy or the from technical background guy. My experience is mainly the software engineer. So when I started to work as developer relations work, I was developer advocate and technical evangelist. But as I mentioned before, that I also covered the user community too. So technical background is very advantageous for reaching out to developers. But also, in the other hand, the marketing knowledge is very important. That's why I mean the marketing guy right now. They have any potential to become developer relations role, like a leading developer community, I think.
Yeah, I think just want to add, like piggyback on Taiji's point of view, right? Like where um I think user groups are essential for any community, essential because they actually shape the direction the company is going in, right? Because they actually tell you what features are working well, what features lack the clarity, and then you can use that feedback and use their experience to build a little better products. So that was just one more thing I think I wanted to add to user groups.
I think those user groups are so important, especially when we start to think about building ambassador programs or those champion programs or beta groups that we often see. And if we're kind of going to reflect on those open source models, it really reflects on the original like open source kind of maintainer contributor sort of mindset. I'm seeing a bunch of audience questions come in. I'm really excited for these. So we're going to try to get through as many as we can here. So drop in this one from the audience here. So Amuda put, how do you keep developers engaged apart from coding?
I think good question. Coding is just part of developer, I think. That we have not only application engineer, but also the infrastructure engineer or the more just system designer or something. So we need to have any tech contents, not only programming, for all of developers, all of engineers. Yeah, then no need to limit for software engineer or like coding something. It's just like building the infrastructure with the Kubernetes or something. It's very important things for the infrastructure engineers. All of them, it's developer relations. So that's why I sometimes to create any tech content, so like a movie on the YouTube or Twitch or something, and any how to build a blah 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 on the technical blogs or something. Yeah, that is all of them that to get engagement for developers, I think. Yeah.
I love your emphasis
Nice.
on content as well,
Yeah,
because
right.
kind of going back to Mary Thingsvall's 3 C's of DevRel, that content, code,
Yeah.
and community. You can't just have one. You have to have the whole combination. Cherish.
Sure. So I think like this is a good question, right? In my understanding, developers are very curious people who get sense of achievements when they figure out something, right? So if you've understood that part, I think you can create any kind of campaigns, small hackathons, a little fun activities that people can actually play with. Keep in mind that these are people who like the aha moment where they figure out something and they're like, ah, I figured it out. That's such like an ingrained thing. Whenever you code, that you're able to compile a code and everything works, it's like great. It's like a small dopamine rush. So if you can find that as like the core principle and create your program, your fun events around it, I think it should work well. We have done that previously using quizzes, technical quizzes, small hackathons, small programs, small bounty hunts. Like a lot of cybersec companies actually have a lot of bounty hunts like that. So a lot of fun activities can actually work well with developers as long as you give them that aha moment.
Yeah, that's true. The hackathon is very important, I think. Yeah,
Yes.
A lot
right.
of hackathons. I think that's a lot of how I got into learning a lot more of how to do my technical skills was through those hackathons and kind of building. And I want to like highlight, Cherish, you really had the quote of the day of those, that developers are very curious people who get that sense of achievement when they figure out something. So you've kind of tackled another audience question we have of, do developer communities only want tech stuff? Guess what? It's more than just the tech stuff. Developers are people too. Kind of, I say that half joking, but that aha moment is super important, and it's okay to keep it playful and fun in all of it all. The next question I really love to kind of dive into this is of what content platforms have you found most effective in building these, or what platforms do you really focus on? And do they change based on the type of developer community you're building? Say a code-based platform or more of like a cloud-based platform versus maybe more of an API-driven developer community?
It's also a good question. The company, the which providing the APIs, is that kind of a situation they have. But for example, my current company, Outsystems, they have mainly the just providing the development tools and the runtime environment. Right? So it's a little bit similar, but a little bit different situation for the API company or something. But these two things, the important for the developer community, the ways, the different approaches to reach out the developers to improve the community. Yeah.
Sure. So just taking that, I think that this is a good question, and I mean it's a very niche question, to be honest. So as at AUKUS, we are fully fully hosted, fully managed version of Netflix Conductor, which runs in cloud. So we had to form communities which of people who work in cloud native platforms, right? One thing I've noticed is that a lot of these people are very well versed with GitHub, because for you to work with cloud, you probably have done a lot of PRs. You've probably worked with a lot of front end, back end tech, right? and you're used to having GitHub as like your source of truth and discussions. I have noticed that GitHub works well because it's like it's seminal towards to their knowledge and to their progress in life as a developer, because a lot of these questions are usually found in a collaborative environment, which GitHub provides really well. So in my opinion, I think GitHub I would probably rank that a little higher above the rest.
I feel like GitHub, if you're in any sort of developer or technical community, is pretty essential. It's kind of going to be the core of your stack, especially for those open source communities or products that have open source elements to it. So sometimes the whole organization might not be open source, but just part of it. We'll do one last one if we've got a little bit of time left. So love this question. How do you design and reward the reward mechanisms within these communities to have that competitive nature, but without kind of putting each other against one another? So in the hackathon, we've all been there, and it can be very competitive. But how do you make reward collaborative? That
I think it's the kind of the external evangelist program like Microsoft MVP or AWS Heroes or something. It's really effective for improving the influencer in the community. It's to improve that community. Yeah.
little healthy competition. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Cherish.
No, I think this is a great question, Erin. I think I love this question, my favorite question of the day. The question here is not like to have a community which is not only engaged and also, but also, like competitive, and competitive in the right spirit and values, right? So one of the things that I really like about Reddit is that you get points when you help the actual question, right? So if you're a person who's helping somebody, there's points to serve the community. So if you're building a program where you're rewarding people, not only answer these questions, which are not only just showcase your work, but also reward them for actually providing value to others. So one of the ways, the value that you're instilling is that people are being competitive in being kind and serving others. I think that's a good place to be in, or at least to start with.
Competitive and being kind and serving others. I love that. That is absolutely amazing. I'm going to pass it off to y'all. Is there any personal shout outs or any parting notes that we should leave our audience with? And I'll also, if you're following along in the chat, I will be dropping their Twitters in as well. So let me know, but I'll pass it off. Who wants to go first with any personal plugs or last parting thoughts?
Sure. I'll make this quick. So while I was actually like preparing for this conference, a lot of people reached out to me and said that we've seen, your journey with CMX, the award and everything. And they reached out with very similar questions that how can I break into DevRel, or I have that imposter complex, or I'm not technical enough. I have always, like I started with this question, if there is anything I can do for you ever in terms of helping you get a job or helping you preparing for like a mock interview, I'm all yours, and I will be always available. I will find a time to work this through and actually be of help. This is something that I do out of passion, and I will continue to do that. So if there is anything that I can do for you, feel free to reach out to me on my wherever you can find it, emails, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, and I'll drop those, I think, on my chat.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you.
Me, right? Okay. For audiences, that if you have any question or if you want to discuss more with me about the tech community or user community, you can find me any social network services with my name Taiji Hagino. This is a very unique name in Japan, so that's easy to find me. Just feel free to contact me anytime, and let's discuss more. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. I love this topic. I love geeking out on this topic. So thank you for geeking out with me on it, and welcome back.
That was just fantastic. That was like,
thanks, Erin. Thanks, CMX, for this opportunity. I think I had a great time, and I would love to be in person for the next one.
Fantastic. So it's been great to have you all. That was a wonderful half an hour for me because, of course, it's what I used to do as well. So very, very relatable. So thank you all. It's been a pleasure having you all here to talk about developer communities and sharing your experiences and your insights.